Okay, so it says we're live, and I think we have some people in here. You guys can let me know in the chat bar and let me know if it is actually working. I think we are. Can somebody there let me know that this is working by throwing something up in the live chat? Just seeing that we are just getting in here. We are live. Okay. Hi, Ben. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Okay. Baruch Hashem. Well, we are finally here. It is a pleasure to be sitting here with you. I wish I could see everybody that's in here. I don't know who's in the room with us, but whoever's here, you can definitely send a thumbs up, a hello, a hi, something on the side so I know who we're sitting with. But this is just an absolute pleasure to be 2 days away from the book coming out. It's been so heartwarming to see the response come in from friends and family and from people that I don't know, people that I've never met before, who are showing such incredible excitement and enthusiasm about being able to get their hands on the book and to start learning from it and reading it and growing as we all are growing on this journey together. So it's a very exciting thing for me. It's a very exciting week. And, even before we jump into the book, maybe we'll wait just a minute or two for people to come in. But if you haven't seen it yet, this is it. I'm so excited for it to get to you. Yeah, I really have to start with some deep, deep gratitude, which is, first and foremost to God. Hashem has really guided me throughout this whole process. And, a year ago, I don't know where I thought I was going to be a year from then, but I definitely didn't know it was going to be doing a YouTube live and putting out this book and all the other things that we're working on together. Thank you so much. I to Abba and Ima, my parents. I have so much gratitude who really helped me get to this point where we are right now, and my wife, my kids, they've really allowed me to do everything that I'm doing. This whole project has been an outgrowth of love and connection with everybody that I know, thank God, and a very special thanks to Zach Horowitz and Avram Kovel and Zev Goldberg, people who've kind of been with me step by step, Kenny Wallach, and really helped make this come alive. There's so many people, and this is not a time to give some big major thank you speech, but really I just want to say a major thank you to everybody who's allowed this book to come forward, support both emotionally, physically, financially, mentally, friendship-wise. Thank you so much, and really to all the people, to you, who's sitting in this room here with me right now, who've supported me, supported my stepping into social media, stepping into this book launch. It's a whole new world, a new landscape, and anybody who knows me more than just from this book or from my social media page knows that the last 13 and a half years of my life, before I started working on this book or any other books that I was working on, before I started stepping into social media as something that I did at all, I hadn't touched it. I didn't have a Facebook page. I, certainly didn't have an Instagram, a Twitter, a LinkedIn, a YouTube, a TikTok, a Clubhouse, so you name it. I wasn't on any of these platforms. I was kind of locked away in my dungeon of a base medrash. I was studying and learning basically anywhere from 8 to 12 hours a day, and teaching. And the biggest privilege in the world to be able to be involved in deep spiritual practice and to share that with others. And maybe just as an introduction before we actually speak about the book itself, and maybe do a little bit of reading from the book, just a little bit of the background of the story of where this all came from and how it came to be. I thought I'd share something special with you, which is not found in the book itself. I mean, I've shared a little bit in the introduction, but the background kind of goes like this. About 18 months ago, I was hit with a massive clarity. I I kind of had this intuitive knowing. There were some pretty massive spiritual and experiential life changes I went through, people that I hadn't spoken to or seen for 15 years, things that I hadn't thought about, kind of like an inner expansion I was going through. And one day I woke up and I had this massive knowing. I had a very, very clear knowing about how I was supposed to take and where I was supposed to go next in my life, not just in my inner world, but in my teaching, in my career, in my family life. And it kind of felt in a lot of ways that the walls of fear were removed and taken away. And there was a massive clarity that came through that. In many ways, it maybe looked like I was making a complete 180 from where I was going. I mean, I think if you spoke to most people a year ago, and it was learning Gemara all day and teaching and Hashkafa and in small groups here in Jerusalem, and then to go from that to now we have something like 10,000 followers across 8 platforms and 25,000 people on an email list, and it's a total like mind shift from where we came from. But in other ways, it was exactly the right next step. It like really made sense that that was the next place that I was going to be going to. After those experiences, I knew it was time for me to write a book that encapsulated the teachings and the learnings that I'd been working on for so long. Meaning, I dedicated my life to this learning. I knew that I wanted to share it. I was excited by it. It was something that I was practicing in my own life, and it was something that I was teaching to the people that I met. But I wanted to write it in such a way that it would be very universal, very easy to read, something that any person in the world could pick up who wanted to grow and take that next step. That it shouldn't be such a high read that, like, the very first book I put out, Sukkot Inspired, I got a lot of compliments on it, and reviews were all very, very positive. But a lot of the things I heard from people were like, it was amazing, amazing, amazing. I couldn't even get through a chapter. It was so full or so deep or so high. And even though it's a nice praise, I felt like what that meant was maybe people had a hard time moving through it because I put the bar too high, or maybe I was thinking in a way that didn't really fit the people that I was trying to reach. And I'm happy that it reached the people that it did, and that it continues to reach them. So for me, this was an opportunity to really come deeper into myself and express how I would feel if I were just shooting the breeze and really making it simple and clear and easy and enjoyable, and something that anybody can just pick up and walk away with and get something positive from, and be able to grow and get to that more enlightened state that we're all trying to get to. So, let's just rewind a drop. In November 2019, I sat down to write this book that I was so excited about. And I sat down, and in 3.5 weeks, I wrote a 60,000 word spiritual self-help book, based on all the Torah and everything else that I'd been working on: psychology and New Age spirituality and philosophy and psychology, everything. Meaning, like, all really working together and finding those unified themes that kind of bridge through. And a month later, I had this manuscript. I was very excited. I started sending it to all my friends and family. And this was, wow, I was elated. If you ask anybody who knew me at the time, I was like flying. I was on another plane, and things were so clear. And January came along, and I sat down with the closest people in my life and my mentors, and I basically, explained to them what I was planning on doing next. And I wanted to go to all these social media platforms and start sharing this message and these ideas. And there was some resistance, in the beginning from a number of places, and there was some excitement in others. And before I really had a chance to go for it, I had an opportunity. I was given a job offer in New York City, in Manhattan, which kind of threw me and my family for a loop. And it's a whole story, and maybe one day we can sit down together and share it. But my family and I went to New York City for 8 days to see if it was the right move for us. We were this close to making the move. It was close. But one of the main reasons why I decided, or I should say we decided, my wife and I decided together, that it wasn't the right move, was because here I had just written this book. I had just had this clarity. I knew where I wanted to go next in my life. And when you have clarity, you have to act on it. I had clarity in my life once before, and I had the blessing on acting on it then, and that's what got me to where I am today. So when you have that again, and this is, for me, it's only happened twice, and I don't know if it happens, I don't know how many times it happens in your life when things are that clear. And when they are, that's just that inner message, that you have to step forward and go with it. So we declined that job offer, which was in and of itself a challenge, and we got back to our home in Israel, in Jerusalem. And when we got there, it was a week before Purim last year. So we were sitting here a year later, a week before Purim. And we didn't know that that was going to be a life-changing, pivotal moment in our lives when coronavirus, COVID-19 pandemic broke out. And that was the last time we really all got together, was that February last year. 6 weeks, there was major lockdowns here in Israel. And during that time, I think it was the chaos of just not knowing. And then now we're all home all the time. Me, my wife, 3 kids at the time, 3 kids under 7. And it was a noisy home. It was a confused home. And it really, what it did for me, it was kind of the breakdown to breakthrough syndrome, where everything, like my whole life stopped, everybody's life stopped. And I moved deeper into an avoda, into a spiritual practice of, wait, where's my balance? Where's my center? Where's my peace? Speaking to a lot of friends and family, therapists, mentors, going deeper into the books, and a lot of time in meditation. Like that just became my go-to. My ritual in the morning of just getting up and praying and meditating became deeper and deeper during that time. And coming out of that 6-week period, that very first 6 weeks of Corona pandemic breakout, that's when I actually put the first book that I wrote, aside, right? And I started going deeper into, what we need now is peace. What we need now is to be grounded in the highest, most potent, most powerful thing in the world, which is our connection to the infinite, our connection to God, our connection to the universe, in such a way that one knows within themselves a joy and a peace and a love that both empowers you, but it grounds you. And for me, that was my own personal work, and that's what it itself translated into. It's all the same to me. So it's all the same to me at the end of the day is, uh, my personal work during the pandemic. It's something I've been working on for years, but Corona itself forced me and pushed me into living it as deeply as I possibly could. And for that, I'm grateful for everything that's happened. The book itself is called "It's All the Same to Me." People ask me all the time, why is it called "It's All the Same to Me"? Maybe it sounds like a boring title, or maybe it's a provocative title. But for me, the idea is that everything in this world is constant change. The world is in flux. No two people are alike. No two moments are alike. No two flowers are alike. As similar as things are, everything is different. And the only thing is the same is that which holds all the pieces together. You can use whatever language you want to call it. So if you call it God, if you call it the infinite, the divine intelligence, Hashem, Kadosh Baruch Hu, however you're going to relate to the infinite oneness that holds the whole universe together, right? That is the only thing that's the same. It's a pasuk. The pasuk says, "Ani Hashem lo shanisi." I am God unchanging. I am God unchanging is another way to say I'm God. I'm always the same. And that sameness is what's within everything, within all experiences, all the things that happen in our life, all the people that we meet, all the things that we do. There's a godliness that's there, right? There's a spirit that exists within all things, all places, all people, and all events. So the idea that it's all the same to me, another way of saying it is it's all God to me, right? Or it's all godly to me. It's all the universe to me. It's all the same. It's all the same to me. So that's really the underpinning of the idea. And from there comes the deepest peace that one can ever know, right? Because when you're living in deep communion with the most powerful experience in the world, the trust, there's so much trust that comes when you're living there, because it doesn't matter what's happening in your life. You can allow things to unfold. Just today, I got a call in the morning that it threw me. I was like, wow, like I was pushed into going deeper into all the practice in my book. Like I spoke to my mother this morning, and she said, "Oh, here you go. Like this is the challenge you were given to kind of like see like, oh, you wrote a whole book about it. How deeply are you living with it? How real is it to you, beyond concept? What's it like when you're not meditating? What's it like when things aren't going exactly how you planned?" And it's a gift, um, to be forced into trusting that which you know is true. And when people ask, how did I get to where I got to? I used to say that I don't know. I didn't do anything, right? I was pulled, I was drawn, I was taken by God, and I was given this. And like, what did I do already? I didn't do anything. And today, I think the answer is more along the lines of, maybe I didn't do anything of my own, but what I definitely have is had that trust, which even that is a gift. Even to have the trust is a gift, to be able to lean into life and to lean into spirit. So anyway, I'm very, very grateful. I'm going to read a section from the book. It's all the same to me. And I'm more than happy to field any questions, both on the book. So if you have a question as I'm reading, you can throw it in the chat bar over here on the side. Ma, Linda, Benjamin, Ava, Ben, Yossi, it's so great to see all of you over there. Anybody else who's in the room, you're more than welcome to throw your name up there on the side. We'll say hello. And so while I'm reading from the book, you can throw up your questions, and we'll get to the answers afterwards. I'm also happy to field any questions about the book release itself, and about the process, and about my own life and my experiences along the way. So I'm looking forward to having that conversation with you. So here we go. We're going to start here on page 27. It's in chapter 2. The name of the chapter is The Secret Switch. And I think the reason why I want to start from here is because we'll leave the introduction in chapter 1 for those who want to get the book. I think the core of the meaning starts there, but it starts to get even more practical from here, so we can already draw something as we're sitting here right now. So it says, sameness means living with an inner yes. Through cultivating this attitude of non-attachment and non-resistance, you'll feel more confident in everything you do. What do I mean when I say living with an inner yes? I mean that no matter what shows up for you in your life, instead of fighting it, you choose to say yes to what is happening. For example, you'd like to get to a meeting on time. You leave your house early, you take a shortcut, and nevertheless, you find yourself in a traffic jam. You become immediately aware that you're going to be late at least 15 minutes. Your inner no to the situation causes you to get upset and frustrated for the next half hour as you mentally shout about how angry you are at the situation. But Hishtavos, equanimity, right, sameness, says yes. Meaning it says yes to the situation. It doesn't fight from what's going on, but rather embraces the reality that's taking place and steps into it. It need not be an enthusiastic or excited yes, right? You don't have to be happy about something negative that's happening in your life. No one tells you to be happy when you get a cut, or when you fall off a chair, or when you're stuck in traffic. But a simple inner, yes, this is what's happening now, can totally transform your life. Imagine if instead of getting frustrated by the stop and go traffic, you fully accept it as an opportunity to listen to the podcast you've been pushing off listening to, or you call your cousin whom you haven't spoken to in ages. With a different lens, you may experience that life has just presented you with a gift. And instead of wasting precious energy getting stuck in the stock of life, you're already in the grain of your day. You can choose to see life situations as assignments that have shown up for you, opportunities. Instead of resisting and creating negative energy, you can accept and even embrace what happens in a way that allows you to be at peace. Not only will you feel better, but you'll make better decisions in the moments that follow. And I'll just interrupt myself from the book here and say that's a very important point. Meaning, a lot of people think that just feeling good for the sake of feeling good is enough, and it is. right? It's such a pleasure to be feeling good. But there's so much more to feeling good than just feeling good. There's the fact that when you're feeling good and you're feeling positive and you're feeling at peace, you make better decisions, you live a better life, meaning everything else that follows is better. It's not just how you feel. Let's say you did get angry during that car ride. What kind of person are you going to be on the phone if you call someone? What are you going to be feeling when you finally arrive at your destination? In fact, what good did it do to get angry at all? Did it change the situation? Ask yourself, why was I so anxious over being late? And why was I upset about losing my job? Or when I lost my job, excuse me. When you live with an inner yes to life, life will be saying yes to you. So there are no problems, only situations. A problem is a concept that we create in our mind. We decide something isn't good, and thus it's a problem. Problems come with an excessive stress, anxiety, sadness, and fear. It is very easy for us to turn situations into problems. Usually, however, you'll discover that what you define as a problem is actually anything that doesn't go according to your plans. You may believe something has gone against your desire, and it is when something you don't want to happen has taken place where you feel the anxiety of it potentially happening in the future. That's what we call problems. Universally, that's what we've decided. When we see things from a lens of separation, meaning we have a subjective definition of better or worse, there can be little to no acceptance of what is happening. In its place, there will be resistance, resentment, frustration, anger, and irritation. Just to double click on that and explain a little bit, what I mean is when we're the ones who decide what we want to happen or not to happen in our lives, and we're so attached to the meaning that we label these things with that, if I don't get to the meeting on time, or if the date doesn't go well, or if the book that I bought isn't good, or if the restaurant I go to serves food that I didn't like, right? Whatever it is, you fill in the blank. When the things that we've decided have to be a certain way and we're attached to the outcome of what they're supposed to be, those are the things we say, oh, I had a problem today, or we complain about it. We subjectively decide what's better or worse. Really, you thought you were going to go to some restaurant and order a certain type of food, and in the end, they didn't have the dish you wanted. So you can either choose to order another dish, or during Corona, I guess we're not going to restaurants, but you understand what I mean. Or we complain about it. We say how the place we went to didn't have what we were looking for. Instead of creating more problems, we can choose to see what is happening without the label. You can decide that as an alternative to waging war with life, you can wage peace with yourself. Choose to see reality, feel the feelings that come with the reality, and accept it. With this comes a peace from which you can choose to do something about the situation that has presented itself. So, are you saying that I shouldn't want anything? No. The problem is we don't know how to want. We have never learned how to properly want anything. We just assumed we knew how and have lived our lives as if we didn't need training in our wanting. I really love this. We think we know how to want. We think we know what it means to want and how to want what we want, but that itself is something that needs training. There's something I call resistant wanting. This type of wanting comes with a label attached that reads, if I get what I want, it's good, and I'm happy. And if I don't get what I want, it's bad, and I'm unhappy. But the psalmist wrote, throw the load you carry onto God, and he will take care of you. And what load are you carrying? What's the heavy baggage weighing you down that you take with you everywhere you go? It's the resistant wanting, your desire that defines what's good or bad. It is this resistance and judgment that is the burden you carry. When you throw that up to God and know that the highest good will unfold, God will take care of you. That means that when you can let go of your plans and your desires and your thoughts and opinions about life as being absolute, as needing to be a certain way, you will be free of your heavy burden. Then there is surrendered wanting, right? Surrendered wanting is totally different than resistant wanting, which is your ability to be enthusiastic and desire something without being attached to the outcome. You are thus able to have an opinion, but also maintain an open mind and accept you might not know the whole picture. Surrender is not about giving up, but about giving over. It is going for what you love and appreciating the process and enjoying the success if it comes. And in the same breath, it also means embracing what looks like failure because you see it as part of a bigger success. The goal is not to do nothing, nor is it to desire nothing. The goal is not to avoid thinking, nor is it to be nothing. The goal is to let go of the smallness inside you that keeps you trapped in the valueless opinions of your ego. And this letting go will allow you to step into your greatness as part of the infinite and hold hands with destiny as you walk through life. Surrendered wanting is to let go of how you think things should be and follow the guidance that is always being sent to you. I was touched by the way Gabrielle Bernstein expresses this in her book, The Universe Has Your Back. When you humbly surrender, you begin to receive guidance far beyond your physical sight. Often you'll feel a presence within you and around you, guiding your thoughts and feelings. Don't be afraid to dive deeply into the infinite pool of inner wisdom that is available to you now. Open your heart and mind to new perceptions. Allow yourself to surrender to the flow of love that is always guiding you. In the Ethics of Our Fathers, it says, "Make his will your will, so that he can make your will his will." And the sages understood that when you align your desire with what is actually happening, your life will begin to unfold in a way that truly fulfills desire. Live as if you have chosen whatever you feel or experience at this moment. This is really the seat of your free will. Your choice begins with how you view life. No outcomes are yours, and all outcomes are good. In this lies the peace of God. Instead of asking why, start asking, what can I learn from this? So to summarize these points, surrendered wanting doesn't mean avoid trying. It means to try without being attached to outcomes. It does not mean avoid doing anything, but it means to do everything you can without thinking you're in control of the results. It does not mean to avoid thinking. It means to think without fooling yourself that you know the whole picture. And it does not mean thinking of yourself as nothing. It means knowing you are part of the everythingness that is life, and you are never separate. We all tend to hold on tightly to that which we believe we must control. But as a point of self-inquiry, investigate where in your life you are still holding on to something you might benefit from surrendering to a higher order. The answer to this question might contain a portal to a deeper peace in your total existence. And remember, surrender is not about giving up, it's about giving over. So that's a section from chapter 2. So I am very, very happy to entertain any questions on that concept or concepts related to it. I'm also happy to continue reading or read another I prepared another section from the book as well. So I'm going to wait for you over here on the side. Let me know where you guys are up to, just so I know that we're here. We have a pulse. I see that there's a number of people in the room, and we'll go from there. Okay. Well, until I hear anything from the side over here, I'm going to keep reading, and we'll read a little bit more into chapter 2, and then we'll continue. So are you saying that nothing matters? No, I wouldn't phrase it that way. These are the things that must not matter to you. 1, what happens. 2, what people think of you. 3, what you have and what you don't. 4, your spiritual level and the things that block you from growth. So then what does matter? Everything. Everything matters. Nothing can be miscounted. Everything does matter, just not in the way you think it does. Things matter, in that everything happens for a deeper reason and fits perfectly into the Creator's masterpiece of life. However, your opinion and judgment of a situation, excuse me, however, your opinion and judgment of a situation don't matter, in that they're often incorrect and biased by your limitations. When you label something as good or bad, that has no bearing on the reality of the situation. When you think about a situation, when you think about a situation that may matter to you, but it only matters in a relative sense and not in an absolute sense. We see things through our limitations and beliefs that we were handed by other human beings and our own subjective experience of life. Thus, we're almost always going to be seeing things without total vision, and will come to misunderstand reality. Therefore, when I say that your perspective doesn't matter, what I really mean to say is that the way you see things does not include the whole picture. And how do I know? Because if you saw the whole picture, nothing would ever contradict the way you see things. But the reality is that some situations are the opposite of how you thought they should be. You can ask yourself, how often is the word should causing you pain and creating problems? Nobody plans for a global pandemic. Nobody plans for a flat tire. There's a part inside of me that immediately thinks this isn't supposed to be happening. This is my problem. The truth is, if there's a problem, it's because in that moment, I'm not walking with God. I've forgotten what it means to be in this world. And when you lose your stillness, you lose touch with your inner self. And when you lose touch with your inner self, you can lose yourself in the world. This is not fatalism, it's freedom. Everything matters, just not in the way you think it does. We create, sustain, and direct our own pain through our attachment to fear and our desires. We can also create, sustain, and direct our joy and peace through letting go and moving back into harmony with our higher selves. This choice is what it means to be in the image of God. The psalmist writes, "Happy are those people that for them this is so." What a powerful thought that can change your entire perspective. This is so. Can we live with this is so? The happy ones are those who can live at peace with this attitude. They have learned to let go and flow. This is sameness. That's the end of chapter 2. It's all the same to me. It was very nice to sit here and read with you. I'm happy to sit for another minute or two here if people decide that they have any questions. Otherwise, I'm going to wish you a beautiful week, beautiful Adar, a happy Purim that's coming up in just a week. And God willing, we'll have some more time to spend together, hopefully in person. Love you too. Amen. Thank you, Ma. You're welcome, Ben. My pleasure. It's good to see you, or at least your name. Looking forward to seeing you in person. Thank you, Linda and Avram. My absolute pleasure. Amen. Thank you, Ben. I'm looking forward to hearing what you think about it. I think you're going to enjoy it. Looks like some new people entered into the room. If you have just entered into the room, we've just gone through reading a section in chapter 2. I'm happy to read it again. I'm also happy to entertain any questions on the concept of sameness. It's all the same to me, as well as have any conversation about putting out the book itself. I know a lot of people have been asking me about how I decided to put out the book, what we did to promote it in terms of just practically. I'm just happy to be sitting here 2 days before the book coming out. You can't hear it, but I've got some nice meditative music going on in the background, which is actually quite peaceful. So in the meantime, I'm just sitting here with you. I see that I'm not going to go. As long as there's people in the room, I'm here. If questions come forward, beautiful. If not, in about another minute, I'll go into another chapter and we'll do another reading. Okay. Maybe we'll do a chapter here. Linda, I'm so with you. The pandemic is a disaster. Some things are insurmountable. What do you do about that? So I think that is maybe the core question in this whole experience, right? Meaning, what do you do when it is a problem? Things are hard, when they're not going to change, at least not anytime soon. And trust me, as a person who's alive in 2021, yeah, there's nobody I know that's not been affected by this, whether it's physically, whether it's personally, in your own family, whether it's friends, whether it's your business, your finances, whether it's your day-to-day life. In some way, we've all been affected, and we've all been affected in a way that's apparently negative. So there's really only two ways, right? If you're talking to me about physical illness or death, God forbid, so that's one question, and there's one answer to relate to that directly. But if we're talking generally, uh, thank you, Ma. If you're talking generally about how to deal with things like the pandemic, which is a disaster, I think the question is, similar to over here that I wrote earlier, which we had read, which is not why is this happening, but what can I learn from this, or what can I do with this going forward? A lot of people, when the pandemic first started, the chaos was we don't know what's going to happen next, and therefore everything's changing, and it's constantly changing. And now my life, as I knew it, can't be that way anymore. But when you live with the knowing that this must be part of something bigger, and not just bigger for the whole world, but even bigger for me. There's no one alive that this isn't coming out of nowhere. This is coming to help every person that's breathing today to do something else in their life, or to think something different, to go into either a deeper space in themselves or do something that they couldn't do before. So when you ask, what do you do about that? You see, there's nothing to do about it. It's really about changing the way we think about it. It's less about how we act, and it starts with how we think, right? It's less about what's being done to you and how to think about what's happening in your life. And then from there, we can talk about what to do next. So, if we're talking about what do I do because now we're stuck in our homes all the time, so that's one conversation. Or if it's what do I do now I'm not making ends meet anymore, that's another conversation. If what do I do, I'm afraid to go outside, I have tons of anxiety because, I'm older, or I have an underlying condition, and fill in the blank with things that make life challenging during the pandemic. So that's another question. But all those questions are going to come down to, Is this an opportunity that I can lean into trust? Okay, I guess right now for me, if I literally can't leave my house, not just because of fear, but because there's a good reason, right, for not for not going out. So now I have to step into, okay, so now where's the growth in my life that's going to come from here? I would have never forced myself to stay in a home, for a year on end. What's going to happen for me now that I'm here? Meaning that's what I mean to lean into it. Following the second reading, many people worry about being judged by others. Say a person who always was criticized in childhood. How can they learn to leave that behind? So this idea, right? We were speaking about this earlier, which is we've been given a set of beliefs based on what happened when we were younger, and that doesn't have to be 4, 5, 6. It can be any time, right? You hear something enough, you start to believe it. So it all starts with dropping the persona that's attached to, right? Meaning, and Benjamin, I appreciate the question a lot. The part of us that feels that there's a problem and that we've been criticized, we've been told it's not good enough or I'm not good enough because I couldn't perform in a certain way. I couldn't do the things I was supposed to do. The very first step is to see that it's just a thought, right? For anyone who's ever practiced any sort of meditation or mindfulness, uh, the idea of becoming aware that there's a thought in your head that's telling you, I'm not good enough. There's a thought in your head that says you could never do this. All of those thoughts, that broken record that we picked up from people along the way, the beginning is first seeing and witnessing, oh, that's just a thought going on in my head. That's not necessarily reality, right? Having that first step is the portal to allow for everything else to happen, right? Everything else can only happen once you see it's just another thought. It's not real. I don't have to be afraid of the thought, right? The problem, what energizes the thought, Rabbi Yamin, is the belief, right? Right? Belief is energy. Thoughts aren't a problem. A lot of times we're looking at life and we're thinking, oh, I have this negative thought and that negative thought and this negative thought. But having a negative thought's not the problem. The problem is how much you lean into it. How much do you believe it? How much do you give it power in your life? Right? So the beginning is, let's see where the issue is mentally. And then once you see that, now you can say, okay, well, if I don't want to believe that thought, let me choose a different thought instead, right? And I'm going to go act on that, right? The Baal Shem Tov describes the idea of Hachna, Havdalah, and Habtaka, right? That means that you see the thought in your mind, you see the klipa, the negative idea that's going on inside, and you separate yourself from it. You stop giving it energy, right? Instead of energizing the thought, you machniya it and say it's just a thought. That's all it is. Then you totally separate from it. You disassociate from it, and then hamtaka is say, okay, well, if I'm having that thought and I keep running back to that thought, what is it about it that I want? Usually it's I want some form of self-love. I want to feel good. I want to feel accomplished. I want to go do something good in the world. The follow-up to that is you replace it with, okay, well, what do I want? Instead of focusing what I don't want or what's not good about myself, you focus on what you do want in yourself, what can go well in yourself, where do you love yourself? And then the way to concretize that is now you can go take an action, right? You go take an action on that thought. So then everything in your life at that point starts to shift. And that's how you reprogram what's going on inside. I don't know if that resonated with you, Benjamin, but it was as a broad question, responding to it in a broad answer. Linda says, the Torah shows you how to identify problems and to seek solutions. Avram identifies idols as a problem, and God shows him the way. Avram, is that a question or a comment? Okay. Comment. Yes, I agree. I couldn't tell if there was a question buried in there. Okay, I thought to read one more part of the book over here, and And once again, we'll leave it as open to questions, and hopefully, wherever we get to, we'll get there with a smile and joy. This is from chapter 8. All is of the highest good. I want to believe everything that you're saying. I feel like somewhere in my heart of hearts, I already know what you mean. But how do I consciously unlock this inner knowing and experience it more in my day-to-day life? This knowing stands at the heart of the book. Knowing is everything. In fact, the Talmud says, if knowing you have acquired, what are you lacking? If knowing you are lacking, what have you acquired? True poverty is only that of knowing. So what is this knowing? The truth is, it's not something that can be fully expressed in words. We try the best we can, but in the end, it's so personal to the self that only you know its true meaning. Nevertheless, qualities of this inner experience include 1. Awareness and a sense of a universal intelligence guiding and directing the events in your life with purposeful intention. 2. Awareness and sense of your essence being something not of this world despite being in this world. 3. Awareness and sensing the good and love that is embedded in the fabric of creation. Knowing is the way into God. Knowing is living with the clear notion that there is an all-powerful, loving, and personal God, a creator who is guiding, directing, and moving the world towards the highest good. Knowing is recognizing there is no chaos and nothing is random. There are no coincidences and no accidents. Your birthplace, your parents, your skills, or lack thereof, are all designed to help you achieve your unique purpose. Meditate on this. Everything emanates from the same source. Life is unfolding from the one being that is truth. There's a prayer that says, "Blessed is the one who spoke the world into being." This is a reminder of who is telling the story of life. When we go deeply into this, we remember the story is a good story. The story is a godly story. There is a divine need for everything that happens. Everything and everyone matters on a cosmic level because all that exists are cosmic matters of a divine intelligence, of a higher order of thinking and seeing reality. The cosmos is not chaotic. Actually, the word cosmos means order, just a divine order. Jacob Joseph of Holon, known as the Toldos Yaakov Yosef, who wrote the first Hasidic work ever published. As one of the Baal Shem Tov's prime disciples, he would say, I practice Hishtavos by seeing everything as being from God, and so it is of the highest good, the deepest love, and most sincere compassion. I put love, joy, and the infinitude of God in my mind whenever anything happens that seemingly stands against me. Know that things are in fact working out. Things are going your way. Things are perfect and will only ever get better. Even when we descend, it is only for a higher ascent afterwards. We fall to rise. We bend our knees to jump even higher. That which is real is that which never changes, and that which never changes is the still and complete love within all of creation. When you lose your sense of connection to the stillness, you lose touch with who you are. When you lose touch with who you are, you start to get lost in the world. There are no accidents. There are no mistakes in the universe. And know this, God wants more for you than you can ever want for yourself. Knowing is recognizing the truth of who you are. You are a spiritual being who is developing and growing in a physical reality. You and all of your actions are perfect, even when they seem imperfect. It is the deepest acceptance and love of self and life. Every breath you take, everything you say, the mere fact of your being, brings joy to creation and the Creator, and enhances the presence of love in this world. Even when you have seemingly made mistakes, your presence is divine and part of something greater. In this moment, you get a new opportunity to connect with the ineffable. Right now, you can undo past mistakes with a fresh desire and aligned intention to grow and develop. Instead of living with guilt and shame over the past, you can choose a new perspective and learn from it. Life can be win or learn, not win or lose. And in this context, even your failures are opportunities and provide more growth and experiences of love and good in the world. Every moment, no matter how trivial it might seem, is important to the grand picture and your part in it. Your engagement in the world is holy, and every moment holds the prospect of spiritual connection and joy. The knowing is the knowing of oneness, of unity and knowing that there is nothing separate from you in this world. You are connected to all that is, all that ever was, and all that will be. Separateness is the tool of the ego, and you are a soul, a spark of the infinite, shining for a brief time in this physical reality. There is so much more to who you are. The majority of your being is invisible and undetectable. Much of your being is not even in your body. We've come to rely so heavily on our senses that it has become hard to trust our inner knowing. When you let go of the ego, your life starts to slow down. You're not in such a rush because you know that all the things will happen exactly how and when they're supposed to. You do not have to prove yourself to anyone because you are working in harmony with the greatest partner imaginable. Life is a partnership and a co-creation. It's this inner knowing that the world is filled with abundance. There is no lack other than in the mind. There's blessing everywhere. So often we're convinced that we're in the wrong place in the wrong time, or we believe we don't have enough. And there's no such thing as the wrong place or the wrong time. That's the illusion. We think we know better than whatever the infinite loving direction could possibly have designed. Everything happens at the right time. Answers to questions are delivered when they're supposed to be. Questions remain where they're meant to remain. We find our partners in life not a moment before we're supposed to find them, and when we don't, it's because there are other plans. The reason we experience pain is because our plans don't always align with our divine purpose. And on the divine clock, everything happens at exactly the right time. It is knowing clarity and banishing doubt from all thinking. It is only the persuasive power of doubt that causes us to fall into negativity. When we are connected to truth, we are joyous and flower with new creativity. Doubt is the enemy of growth. Doubt holds us back from movement. It is better to try and fail than fail to try. That's what they say. Your life is good today, and your life is good now. Here are several ways to plug back into your sacred space. Faith is a gateway. It is a portal into knowing. Faith is about aligning your mind with what you already know deep in your heart. It has less to do with an idea in your mind and more to do with how right-minded thinking unlocks the treasure chest you've been sitting on your whole life. Meaning you can use faith, emuna, bitachon, as an opportunity to step into this. It's something to engage with actively, to spend time, as the Piaseczna Rebbe says, to spend time daily meditating on and thinking about how to expand our relationship with divine perfection of how the world is unfolding. Meditation is another. Spending time in silence allows for the sediments of your mind to drop to the bottom of the mental barrel. In this lucid space, you can see more clearly and draw insight into your present moments. It doesn't take very long. Just a few minutes in deep silence can recalibrate your entire inner system. I know personally for myself that if it wasn't for meditation, I don't know where I'd be. It grounds me in a way that allows me to live the life I want to live. The words you speak contain the energy of your presence. As I've mentioned, the tongue is the quill of the heart. That's a quote from the Chovos HaLevavos. This connection works in both directions. You may also choose to direct your heart with the words you choose to say. As a practice, when you choose to speak words of consciousness, faith, and love, you are redirecting your focus and attention back onto the truth you seek to experience. Intentionally, choosing to use words of kindness, love, and joy will bring you back to this place of peace and knowing. There is no substitute for applying what you already know to be true. Something to ponder. Are there practices you know already work for you? Where can you integrate them in your life even more? Study ever so closely the journal of your heart. And that's something I tell people all the time, which is, I want you to get this book. I think you'll get a lot from it. But if there's any book that you should get, and I suggest you get it today, I would investigate the book that is your heart. The memories you have, the experiences you've had, the emotions you've had, everything that you've already seen. You have the answers to the questions that you seek. They're already there. You've seen what works. You've seen what doesn't work. And sometimes you just need to get quiet enough to hear. That's the beauty of life, is that Everything else is just an aid. This is just an aid to get you there. This is an aid to get you there. This is an aid to get you there. If I turn the camera around, you see the 50,000 books in front of me. They're just an aid to help you get deeper to yourself. They're pointers. So when we get quiet enough, we can actually hear the answers. But I thought Hishtavos was about rising above good and bad. I guess I have to ask, what do you mean when you say that everything is good? So this question is maybe the most important question that one can ever ask. In life as we know it, we normally associate what is good with what is desirable, and what is bad with what is undesirable. We associate what we desire with pleasure and gain, and we associate what we don't desire with pain and loss. However, this is only a relative good and a relative bad. And when I say that all is good, I mean absolute good that is beyond measure, beyond time, and beyond our own opinions. Absolute good can be defined as that which is desirable to God, not to the individual. Okay. So if there's a line to highlight, that's the one, right? Because we normally define good as that which is desirable to us instead of desirable to something much greater. This good is the opinion of a higher truth. It's a revelation and it's a light. It's when intention shines through. Good is related to growth, learning, and purpose. Good is godly. It is the evolution of human consciousness. And yes, if we could see the whole picture, it would also be desirable to us. But nevertheless, our perspective is limited. So when is life good? Always. Because every moment includes the desirable unfolding of God's plan. Thus, good is really perfection. Even when the world is imperfect, it is perfectly imperfect. When we see the world in this way, our reality becomes based on the underlying truth that all is one and all is holy. Our ability to experience this truth is the most pleasurable and desirable experience. It's the highest good. Our inability to experience this truth is what gives rise to the pain and other undesirable feelings that we label as bad. We see things as broken because our ability to perceive God in them is broken. We see things as missing when our ability to see God in them is missing. We get caught in the illusion and we feel the pain of being seemingly separate. And this is why King David said, "It is the closeness to God that I define as good." The Talmud says that everything is for the highest good, and this too is for the good is a quote from Nachum Ish Gamzu. What too? What also? Even the things that don't appear that way. There's a well-known story about Rabbi Akiva, a disciple of Nachum, who was traveling with a donkey, a candle, and a rooster. One evening he entered a city hoping to find shelter and was turned away. "Everything God does is for the good," he said, and spent the night in a nearby field outside the city. His lamp blew out in the wind. "Everything God does is for the good," he said again. His rooster was then mangled by a fox. "Everything God does is for the good," he repeated. Finally, his donkey was devoured by a lion, and once again, Rabbi Akiva repeated his mantra, "Everything God does is for the good." In the morning, he ventured into the city and realized that bandits had attacked during the night, capturing many people. Had he found a place to stay, he too might have been captured. Had the bandits noticed the lamp in the field or heard his animals, he also might have been spotted. Instead, his life was saved by all the seemingly, quote unquote, bad things that happened to him. We might not see, feel, or perceive the good, but this is because we still have an idea or concept of what we're labeling as good, and our current experience doesn't fit that definition. This is why we don't immediately understand that whatever is happening is for the good. Seeing everything as good is a practice of full surrender and acceptance. It is initially difficult and can take time to develop. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov says, "It is the distance from one that creates pain." All the negativity in your life comes as a result of disconnecting and discrediting the single source of all happenings, distance from one. This distance gives rise to the resistance, and all negativity is resistance in some form or another. We live with a story in our minds about what should or shouldn't be happening. And once again, this means something shouldn't have happened in the past. It shouldn't be happening now, or it should happen in the future. But this opinionated and biased version of life creates the self-generated life enemies we call problems. To drop that negativity, we have to drop our version of the story and read a page from the bigger book of life. There can only be something working against you if you are attached to a desire you can't let go of. Practice and have patience, and life will show you what you need to see with a smile. Just look back to a few questions over here I see on the side. Over the past, Yossi asks, how do we look over the past and move forward without the past baggage? So that's life work, right? So we're not going to be able to go all the way deep in there on one foot, but to be able to move from the past is to first accept that the past happened. At least the first step in being able to let go is not resisting that it took place. Very much of the time, the reason why it's hard to move forward from past events is because we still don't want it to happen. And that's happening in the present. So if you can step into it and just fully feel that pain, allow yourself to say like that happened and that's hard and it was hard, and to experience it and to let it be without having to go against it, to not resist it. As difficult as that is, that really is in a tremendous sense the first step to letting it go, is to let it be where it is. Benjamin asks, yes, it does, but sometimes this attitude is so strongly built in that I guess it would need much practice to leave it behind. That was a reference back to the earlier question, which is how do we leave traumas from criticism in childhood? And the answer is, yeah, we would need much practice to leave it behind. And unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I don't yet know of a magic pill that you can take for that to wipe away all of negative human experience. It does. It takes time and practice. But sometimes when you put in the work, you're given special siyata dishmaya, a certain moments of clarity, certain gifts that maybe it should have taken longer and things can open up for you. But yeah, it does take time. Linda asks, how does man align and work with the divine clock as life goes on in real time, with often problems that need in the moment solutions? Avram, yes, that's that is life. That's the question of life, because there are going to be things that we don't like. And there are going to be things that in a practical sense we're going to have to fight against, right? I mean, nothing that we're writing over here, and if you see in the book, right, expresses very clearly, none of this is to say you shouldn't do things about it, right? When things are seemingly going wrong, right, you have to go take action. If a person loses their job, they have to find another way to go make an income. If a person gets sick, they should go take medicine, go to the doctor. This isn't the space to have the conversation whether or not people should or shouldn't take vaccines, which seems to be a debate in the world today, which is an amazing thing that's even a debate. But that's a question, but you have to do something. You have to make a decision. Whatever you're going to do, you have to lean into it and lean into it with strength. So there's always two things that are going on. There's how you're looking at it. There's your kind of like the background perspective, and then there's your action that you take with it. So the way you look at it, that's really what we're talking about. How does man align and work with the divine clock is to be able to spend time daily. That's why tefillah is part of our regimen 3 times a day. We sit, we daven, we sit, we pray, and we try to connect to the infinite. We try to connect to something that's bigger, because we have to go back. It's like going back into the space of reality, the true reality, which is the divine clock, which is Hashem, perfect intelligence. Everything is working exactly right. There's the exact right quality and quantity to everything that's taking place, and we go back to that space. And from there, we ask for help and guidance. We say, "Yeah, I want more awareness. We want healing in the world. We want parnasa. We want people to have that which they need, a livelihood. We want the world to be in a redemptive state." So we do, several times a day have to go back to that place. And then the rest of the time, we have to go take actions. It's the same reason why there are 6 days of the week and then one day of Shabbos, right? There are 6 days to go and do and act and try to make a difference in the world, to have things move forward. But at the same time, the bracha, the blessing of the world, comes as an outgrowth of our connection to Shabbos, our connection to that space of connection to God, right? So the way that we align with the divine clock in that sense, even though there are things that need solutions in the moment, is to maintain perspective, positivity, trust, certainty in a greater vision, while taking action and doing our part in co-creating and being a shliach, a conduit, a channel for God's love in the world. you need both. So there's perspective, and then there's how we're going to act with that. Hope that touches on the question you're asking, Avram. And thank you, Rabbi Enkin and M. Miller. Pleasure to have you guys here. So if there are no other questions, so I'm going to wish everybody a beautiful day, evening, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. If it's now 11 o'clock in the morning on the West Coast, if we're around 2 o'clock in the East Coast, it's about 9 o'clock here in Israel. A pleasure to spend time with everybody here. I'm happy to stay on if people do have questions. Otherwise, we're going to see you at our next event, God willing, whenever that is. Definitely get a chance, check out the book if you haven't already pre-ordered it on Amazon or Barnes and Noble. And I'm looking forward to sharing very good news with everybody very soon. And this is a tremendous, tremendous bracha. So thank you very much for being here. It means a lot to me and a lot to everybody who's been involved in this. This was not done on my own. This whole experience has been part of a great team effort from everybody that I know, family, friends, mentors, people that I've met in the process. So very, very grateful. Thank you, Ma. Thank you, Chuck. My pleasure to spend any time with you. Okay, everyone. Have a beautiful day, a beautiful week. Happy Purim. We see each other, God willing, very, very soon. We should be zocha to see the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu b'meher b'yameinu. Amen. The building of the Beis Hamikdash, Bizman Karov.